Oh, this is a little project I've been working on lately. It is a 68,000 connected to an FPGA. This down here is an RD A735 with a little Artix 7 series FPGA. And up here there is a 68,000. Rated for 8 megahertz, but right now it's running at 6.25. Around here you can see lots of transistors, and this is all level translation because the FPGA is 3.3 volts and the 68K is 5 volts. And not visible here, but here's another board. Underneath is there's one there, and then another on the back. Two SRAM chips of half a megabyte each, so adding up to 1 megabyte. The FPGA is, at startup, it's driving the 68K into reset, and then it is driving the 68K bus to load the SRAM with a program. Then it lets the 68K come out of reset, and the 68K starts to read the program out of SRAM, and as part of that program, it accesses some addresses outside of the range of SRAM, which are mapped to registers implemented in the FPGA. And those registers for now are just hooked up to the LEDs and the switches and the buttons. And so it's doing a counting pattern on these LEDs, and then the RGB LEDs I have hooked up to these switches, so you can control the different colors. I know you could do that with the FPGA itself, but this is in fact a program running on the 68K. It gets a little bit warm. Yeah, I don't really have a super specific plan for this. I just wanted to do it, and this is just a start. Oh, and for the program, it's written in C, compiling with the just GCC M68K, and I stripped away everything, so I'm using my own custom linker script and no standard libraries. So it's just compiling C code to 68K machine code and linking it with the very bare minimum. So far I've learned quite a bit. Nothing... Only one issue is really worth explaining. I was getting all sorts of weird errors. The program, like, it would run the program for a millisecond or so, but then the program would totally go off the rails. And also when I loaded a larger program on, the program wouldn't even run at all. And it turns out that I had a single intermittent solder joint on one of these tiny pads, and I brought it into the lab and I looked at it under a microscope, and I could not see any problem with the solder joint. But I deduced that it was a bad solder joint in that location because it was I was writing data, and then when I read back the data, part of it had been the first part had been overwritten by the second part, but only on the lower byte. And from that I deduced that the problem must be one of the address pins had a faulty connection, And from the fact that the program would run partially, but then crash, I deduced that it must be an intermittent connection. And on the logic analyzer built into the FPGA, I was able to catch that data getting garbled, which then garbled data going into the processor as instructions just makes everything go off the rails real quick. But after reflowing that pad, it works perfectly. Anyways, I might post more updates someday. Or maybe not. Who knows?